Another game where the New York Islanders just couldn't overcome their own sloppy play in their own zone. We've got our hero and go to the game and our key takeaways, plus a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Bilt Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNHL. Well, that was a stinker. No two ways about it. The New York Islanders did not play well against the Carolina Hurricanes, and they lose by a final score of 4-0. And yeah, I know, the Islanders outshot Carolina, and if you watched the broadcast on ESPN Plus, because it was an ESPN Plus game, they were saying, the Islanders did a great job of creating opportunities. Well, they did a decent job of creating opportunities. They did have some high danger chances in this game, but they couldn't finish. And yeah, I'll tip my hat to Pyotr Kochetkov. He played very well, earned the shutout, 32 saves. But, realistically, the Islanders could not finish on any of these opportunities. They had several 2-on-1s. Hudson Fasching, for example, had 2-on-1s, did not register a shot on goal. The inability of this team to finish when they do get chances has really hurt them. And then on the other side of the ice, so many of the same problems happening again. Let's start with this. The first 5 minutes of this game, the Islanders were the better team. And they created more chances than Carolina did. They came out playing pretty good hockey. What happens? Alexander Romanov takes a high sticking penalty, and voila, 30 seconds later, give or take, not even, Andrei Svechnikov scores. The Islanders, of course, cannot kill off a power play. I know that's shocking. And they're down 1-0. And it was just breakdown after defensive breakdown. Svechnikov on the goal went right to the net, and nobody was near him. On another goal, I believe the Martin goal, the closest player on the Islanders to the goal scorer was Casey Cizikas. Both defensemen were nowhere near a player all alone in the slot area. It can't happen. How many times did the Islanders try to clear the puck and couldn't? How many times was a guy left open in a high danger area where they had a lot of time and a lot of space to score? And the bottom line is, when your team struggles to score goals, and we all know the New York Islanders do struggle to score goals, and when you're near the bottom of the league in shooting percentage, when you're only scoring on 9.3% of your shots, and that's before you go 0 for 32 against Carolina last night, so that number is going down. You can't afford these defensive breakdowns. And every day, as you know, we talked yesterday on the show. One of the important things the Islanders needed to do to win this game, or to have a chance to win this game, was stay out of the penalty box. Carolina, top 10 power play. Islanders, dead last on the PK. So you come out and you're playing a pretty good first 4 or 5 minutes on the road, and you take the dumb penalty, and voila, power play goal, pucks in the back of the net. 3 minutes later, breakdown defensively, pucks in the back of the net. The Islanders could not recover from that snowball effect in this game. And the amazing thing is that the team defense never got much better until the game was well out of reach. Yeah, okay, they only allowed 6 shots on goal in the third period. Do I blame Ilya Sorokin on any of these goals? Maybe the first one he could have played a little better. But the 4 goals, all due to really bad defensive breakdowns. Odd man rushes, rebounds, guys just, nobody picks up a player going to the net. These things should not happen. And yeah, the Islanders are not fast enough, top to bottom, on this roster. And yeah, the Islanders just don't have the finishing ability to overcome giving away goals. And they can't kill penalties. It's the same problems that we are seeing from this team repeating themselves. Matt Martin sits. Isaiah George sits again. Grant Hutton sits. Second game in a row, Isaiah George in the press box. Now, the Islanders may send Isaiah George back down to Bridgeport once Anthony Duclair returns. He did skate with the team this morning, but then decided he wasn't ready to go. He did not play. He is still on LTIR, so that move didn't have to be made and won't have to be made until, obviously, Duclair is ready to play. But again, if you're going to sit Isaiah George, send him down. If he's going to stay on this roster, he has to play. A 20-year-old with precious little NHL and professional experience isn't going to improve by sitting in the press box. He needs to be on the ice, whether it's in the NHL or the AHL. Let's get things straightened out. There are too many players who just aren't getting the job done right now on this team. Too many players who just aren't producing. Brock Nelson was MIA in this game, and we're going to talk more about Brock on tomorrow's show. And again, I'm a big Brock Nelson fan. I mean, he has been, over the course of the season, one of the better players on the team. But in this game, he took a penalty. He was a -1. He only managed 1 shot on goal, no hits, no blocks, and he lost 8 out of 12 he lost faceoffs. Until he took the penalty, I mean, and that came midway through the third period. Did anybody know Brock Nelson was on the ice for the first 50 minutes of this game? If you said no, you're not alone. The defensive breakdowns cannot continue. Whether it's Dobson, whether it's Pelech or Polak or Mayfield or Cholowski or Romanov, it cannot continue this way. The Islanders have to figure out their identity in a positive way. You know, blowing third period leads is not an identity, okay? or at least not one that you want to have as your self-image. This team needs to figure out its identity in a positive way, and then it needs to execute and play that way. Because right now, they are floundering. They are just in no man's land. And you would think that after Patrick Waugh criticized this team, and rightfully so, after they hung on to barely beat Chicago last week at home, that there would be some kind of response. And instead, they go out against Chicago in Chicago on Sunday, and again, play worse defensively than they did at the end of the game last Thursday. Played worse. And again, last night against Carolina, breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. They hung Ilya Sorokin out to dry. And guess what? Marcus Hogberg, second time he's played a period in relief, second time he stopped every shot that came to him. It is time to give Ilya Sorokin a break. And I know they don't play again until Saturday. And then, you've got another game, and then you got the holiday break. I get it. But let Ilya Sorokin have a breather. Let him catch his breath. Because it's not only the number of shots, it's the quality of shots. And you can't run a guy who had off-season back surgery and let him play 9, 10, 12 games in a row. It's just not good long-term planning. This team needs to figure things out. And ultimately, what they're doing right now isn't good enough, because this team remains too old, too slow, and not skilled enough. And it's a real problem. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. We will have our hero and GOAT of the game and a few more key takeaways from this disappointing loss. We'll have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who spent half a season with the Islanders in 2000-2001, kind of a checking forward, who went on to become an NHL head coach, and he won a Stanley Cup about 5 years ago as a head coach. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Select Quote, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork could also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Select Quote, they shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you at less. Just go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Again, go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Today's episode is also brought to you by Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Bilt points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points toward flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. So, again, special teams just not getting it done. Just not getting it done. Power play, obviously, an offer. The penalty kill only gave up the one goal, but boy, it was a game changer. And you still, give up a goal in 3 chances or 2 chances rather. That's not good. Power play 0 for 2. Not good enough. When you're dead last on the power play in the league and dead last on the PK, again, your margin for error is next to 0. And this team makes too many mistakes to overcome their poor power play and poor penalty kill and inability to finish. Another rough game for Casey Cizikas, who continues to struggle. He's a -1. He only had 1 shot. They need more from Zeke. They're not getting it right now. And I've been a big Casey Cizikas fan for as long as he's been an Islander. But let's face facts right now. The Islanders are right now 7th in the Metropolitan Division standings. 7th. They are now 10 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes. But, you could sit there and tell me that the playoffs are within reach. And if you look at the standings, they kind of are within reach. But this team, even if they start playing a little bit better, even though you could tell me, oh yeah, the Islanders are just 1 point out of the wild card. Forget the fact that Ottawa has a couple of games in hand and that there's also, 3 or 4 other teams in between, Pittsburgh, who has that last spot. Then you have Ottawa, Philly, the Rangers. You could sit there and tell me how close they are to possibly getting into the playoffs. But it doesn't change the fact that this is just not a good enough team to be any kind of contender. And as a result, based on the age of this team, based on the fact that there's just not a lot in the pipeline for prospects who would, there are some guys, but they're at least 2 or 3 years away from even starting their NHL journeys. Based on all of this, I have to say it, unless he's willing to do a big major retool or a full rebuild, ownership has to make sure that Lou Lamoriello is not the decision maker at the trade deadline, because the longer you wait, the bigger the problem. Hero and go to the game. Let's tackle that. Tough to find a hero. I mean, I can go Bo Horvat. 4 shots on goal, wins 12 out of 18 faceoffs, had 3 hits, and was even in plus minus, which is the best that anyone could be. I could go Bo Horvat, Marcus Hogberg be second because he didn't give up a goal in the 3rd period. I mean, who was really good in this game for the Islanders? Not many guys. Go to the game. So many choices, but to me, it's got to be the team's defensive zone coverage or lack thereof. Just leaving too many guys open and too much time and too much space and too many breakdowns. There were times in this game that realistically, it looked like the Carolina Hurricanes were a bunch of sixth graders playing keep away from a bunch of second graders. The Islanders couldn't get possession of the puck, couldn't stop the passing, could not make the defensive plays that they needed to make to get possession and transition to offense and get going. And when that becomes a pattern, you're in trouble. And we're seeing that happen with this team right now. They are just not playing good hockey. And it has to get better because there's still 49 games left in this season, and a lot of fans are feeling the frustration right now. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. We'll have our weekly farm report on all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any one of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. Now you can win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on PrizePicks, I'm looking at the hockey board. Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal, or Artemi Panarin for more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. So it's time for our weekly farm report. We do it every Wednesday during the season as we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders. And Bridgeport had 3 games since our last farm report last Wednesday. And let's just say it wasn't a very good week down in Bridgeport, or up in Bridgeport. Last Wednesday, Bridgeport playing the Providence Bruins, and they end up falling to Providence by a score of 4-2. Justin Gill got his first career AHL goal. Brian Pinho scored his 13th goal of the year, but it just wasn't enough, and they get 4 goals in the second period, does Providence, to win. Providence is now 5-0-0 against Bridgeport this year. So the Islanders losing that first game. Now, they had a rematch with Providence on Friday. And again, they end up falling, this time by a 5-3 margin. And this one was over quickly. They gave up 4 goals in the first period and just could not come back. Mark Gatcomb, Brian Pinho, and Alex Jeffries were the goal scorers, but Bridgeport's losing streak now reaching 7 games despite the 28 saves made by Henrik Tikkanen, 0-6-1 in their last 7, going into their last game, which was against the Laval Rocket. And unfortunately, they lose that one by a final score of 6-2. The good news, Frederick Karlstrom and William Dufour scored, and they both scored on the power play. But the bad news is that, they give up a hat trick and end up with a really bad loss by a final score of 6-2. Now, Alex Jeffries now has a point in 7 straight games. He has 9 points during that stretch, 3 goals, 6 assists. So there are some decent individual performances, but overall an 0-3 week for the Bridgeport Islanders. Brian Pino and Chris Terry right now tied for the team lead with 21 points through 26 games. Pino has 14 goals. That leads the team. Terry leads the club with 18 assists. Alex Jeffries, 6 goals, 18 points now in 22 games. Frederick Karlstrom, 9 goals. Mart Gatcomb, 8. Liam Foodie has 5 goals and 12 points. The leading defense scorer, Samuel Bolduc right now with 9 points, one ahead of Travis Mitchell with 8. But again, overall, the Islanders continuing to struggle. Goaltending-wise, Marcus Hogberg, an .898 save percentage, a .326 goals against average. He's now up with the big club, although he's not starting any games. Jakub Skarek, a .345 goals against and an .887 save percentage. He continues to struggle. You look at the standings, Bridgeport has the second worst point percentage in the AHL. They are 11 points out of 7th place in the 8-team Atlantic Division. They are now 5-17-4 and have a .269 point percentage through their first 26 games. Looking at the schedule, 2 games this week, and those will be the last 2 games for Bridgeport before Christmas. They will be at the Charlotte Checkers Saturday, a 4 o'clock in the afternoon matinee, and then Sunday, another 4 o'clock matinee, also at Charlotte. You can watch both of those games on AHL TV. The next home game, Friday, December 27th, at home against the Providence Bruins. So that'll be their 6th chance to beat Providence. Unfortunately, the Islanders' big team not playing well. The farm team, the top farm team, struggling mightily as well. We need some good news, Islander fans, and hopefully Anthony Duclair's return will be a little help to this team. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day, and Tuesday was the 59th birthday of former Islanders winger Craig Berube. The Calahoo, Alberta native, 6'1", 205, undrafted, but made his NHL debut with the Flyers in 86-87, played for the Leafs, the Flames, the Capitals, the Flyers, and Capitals again, and then was an Islander for 38 games during the 2000-2001 season. He had 2 assists and 54 penalty minutes, finished his NHL career with 2 years in Calgary. Despite being a physical player and a defensive specialist, Berube played 1,054 games in the NHL, scored 61 goals and 159 points, and yes, he had 3,149 penalty minutes, had 3 goals and 4 points in 89 playoff games. Went on to become a coach, both an assistant and a head coach with Philly, and then head coach with the Blues, led them to a Stanley Cup win in 2019 after taking over mid-season, and is currently the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that is competing for first place right now in the Atlantic Division. One of Craig Berube's better games as an Islander, March 14th, 2001, Islanders visiting Pittsburgh at the old Mellon Arena, and the goalies in this game, Chris Terreri for the Islanders, J.S. Auban for Pittsburgh. And with the game tied at 1-1 in the third period after goals by Tim Connolly for the Islanders and Mario Lemieux for Pittsburgh, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Craig Berube assists on a goal by Dave Scatchard, Bill McCalt with the other assist. That made it 2-1 Islanders. Less than 3 minutes into the third, Eric Cairns ends up with an empty net goal in the closing seconds. Islanders beat Pittsburgh by a score of 3-1. Chris Terreri, 33 saves. But for Craig Berube, he had an assist. He had a fight. He had 1 shot on goal and played 7 minutes and 24 seconds. So only the goal standing between him and a Gordie Howe hat trick. He went with Bob Bubner late in the first period in this game. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from hosts Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to do a mailbag show as part of the Thursday show, so please get those questions in. You can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.